Hey everyone, it's me Arthur Kade, and make sure to check out one of the most moving and heartwarming documentaries you'll ever see. It's called The Bad Kids, and it's out in LA December 16th, New York December 23rd, and then hitting theaters everywhere. And it talks about students in California who are trying to reclaim their lives and graduate high school. Make sure to check it out. Hey everyone, it's me Arthur Kade, and one of the best films of the year premiered in Sundance, an incredible documentary called The Bad Kids. I'm sitting here with the subject and the director. First of all, congratulations guys. The work you're doing, outstanding. Keep doing it. How'd you find this incredible woman in her school?
My partner and I were doing a series of short documentaries about public education, and we stumbled across Black Rock High School in our research. And we heard that it was a school for at-risk youth who were having trouble with the mainstream high school, which gave us certain preconceptions about the place, that it would be full of bad kids. But when we walked through the door, we were kind of overwhelmed by what a warm and familial and positive environment it was, and we decided to make a film about it.
That was my expectation as well. I thought we were going to see essentially kids murdering each other in the hallways. It was more of a kumbaya session going on at your school. I mean, these kids were like, they're playing guitar, they're like BFFs everywhere. It's nothing like what I expected. I think that's because of you. That's the sense that I get from watching this film, that you fostered this incredible environment, right?
Well, I have an incredible staff, and one of the things that we've found with the at-risk students is that they themselves are very compassionate, and they have big hearts, and they do want to support each other. And so we pretty much put them in charge and allow them to do that, and it seems to work when they're in charge of it all.
Why is your formula so successful? I mean, these are kids that are essentially on their last chance. They've failed out of schools, they're not going to graduate high school, they've got incredible emotional issues. Why is it that your formula is helping them succeed?
I believe that it works because the students are seen. They know that they matter. They know that we miss them when they're gone. We know that we care about their success. And just knowing that you're relevant and that you matter is very motivating.
So you start this teacher search. You come across Black Rock and what she's doing over there. How is it different what they're doing over there than what you experienced with the other short videos you were doing?
Well, I mean, it actually grew out of that because we were interested in teachers who were working in schools that were maligned or called failing schools, or were schools that were with kids that everybody thinks like, I don't want those kids at my kid's school. But they're teachers who are working within the limited resources of public education, and they're doing amazing things. They're doing stuff that doesn't cost that much more money, if any, than what you would see at any other high school. And I mean, I always say human compassion and listening to at-risk students isn't expensive. It doesn't cost anything. The only cost difference is the lower student-to-teacher ratio at a school like Black Rock.
All right, so one of the things that really struck me in seeing this documentary was how much you care about every student. But then I started thinking to myself, have there ever been situations where a student has been, in your mind, too damaged, too far gone, someone who couldn't be helped?
No, I've never felt that any student can't be helped. In fact, I recently wrote a book called Lessons from the Bad Kids, and the co-producer, Keith Fulton, wrote the foreword to that book. And he told a story about a student that I and several other teachers thought, we're not meeting his needs, we're not helping him, he's not progressing, and honestly, we didn't have an answer. And he challenged us to get together and work harder and to talk more, and then we were able to pick each other up and move forward with that student. So if I feel like at a time I'm not being successful and I want to give up, one of the other staff members will say, hey, what if we try that, or let's try this? And eventually, between our team of really great caring teachers, one of us is able to make that connection.
So you're a fly on the wall while this is all going on. How are the students reacting? There's cameras following her around, going through the school. How is the actual environment of filming as you were making it?
I joke about the fact that my partner and I told Miss Viland, you know, if your students don't open up to us, we'll be gone in 2 weeks. Like, we won't be able to make a film. We need them to share their stories with us and to reveal things on camera that most teenagers probably wouldn't. And she said, oh, don't worry, my students are really forthcoming. And privately, and on a drive away from the school, we said, oh, she just doesn't know anything about what documentary filmmakers need. But she was right. Her students are incredibly forthcoming, and they opened up in front of the cameras. And I think part of it was because we were another set of adults who said, hey, I would like to hear your story. I want to know what's going on in your life, and what do you want to do when you're done with high school, and what brought you here. And that witnessing process is a really, really potent human interaction.
One of the things that struck me with these kids, they're really warm when you really see them and who they are as human beings. I mean, these kids aren't like criminals. Like, again, my expectation going in was it was essentially going to be, you know, maximum security jail. And yet it feels like each and every child, their situations are all different, but it feels like they're just looking for somebody to love them and care about them. Is that, when they walk in, is that kind of the initial starting point? Like, let me figure out and diagnose what the major problem is and then start caring about them?
Absolutely. We look holistically, and we work with the human first and then the curriculum second. So I meet with the students, I get their story, I share the story with the teachers. A lot of times when the teachers get frustrated with a student, they'll come to me and say, remind me of what their story is again, so that they are more motivated to be empathetic toward them and to find another approach to work with that student and not give up on them.
Okay, so film gets made. It's at Sundance, getting critical acclaim. What's been the feedback so far from people that have seen this film?
It's been very touching, and one of the best things for me is I have just an incredible staff, but teachers very seldom get any recognition.
You guys are the most undervalued profession on all levels, by the way. They should be paying you like NBA players. They should be appreciating you like NBA players.
Absolutely. Well, and for 2 days, Lou and Keith gave the teachers that experience. You know, they would walk down the street and the people in the street would be, oh, it's the teachers! Can we get our picture taken with you? And they felt like the stars that they are. And so that was really touching for me, for the teachers to have that experience. For the students, the experience has been life-changing. One of the main students in the documentary got a full ride scholarship to college and is just about done with her nursing degree. The other students have received support in their very different situations that you'll see when you see the documentary. And then for the school as a whole, we've had an outpouring of people who now have an understanding of our students, that they aren't the bad kids, they're just kids who are in bad situations. And so people reached out to help me pay for shoes for kids, for basic necessities, toothbrushes, deodorant, and then to set up a scholarship program. Lou and Keith have set up a Bad Kids Scholarship Program.
What a unique name.
Isn't that great?
That's not the most inspiring of names, man. Come on. Should be like the good kids, or like the bad kids. Yeah, I'm going to give money to that one.
The amazing thing is that the students, and not just the students at Black Rock, but students all over the country who have seen this film, have been reclaiming that title. So we'll go to a film festival and they'll have an educational screening for 1,200 high school students. And there will be a group of kids that come up to us afterwards and go, hey, we're the bad kids at our school. And for them to realize like that they don't have to be reduced to that label, that label is something that's applied to them by people who don't understand, who don't know their story, who are probably afraid to hear their story and have to take on the responsibility of what it means to hear a young person tell you, I'm coping with this, or, you know.
They don't need to be embarrassed by their life situations.
Yeah.
How much of it, having had a first-hand look in the operation of Black Rock, how much of it is her and her staff? I'm talking about and like as if you're not here. How much of it is about her? How much of it is her and her staff versus how much of this is it the system they put together?
Well, Ms. Viland and her staff are amazing, and I'll say that, acknowledging that she's next.
I mean, I've seen it. The attention you give is mind-boggling. Like, my teachers didn't want to say 3 words to me in school, and meanwhile, you're like on the phone all day with these people. It's insane.
but it is a replicable system.
It is.
There's nothing at BlackRock that is a fancy curriculum or rocket science. It's an approach and a philosophy to how you interact with young people who the system otherwise writes off.
So let me jump on that point. Why are more people doing this? If we can replicate this and it works, why aren't we seeing more BlackRocks?
I think that's a policy question. For the past few years, we've been putting so much emphasis on testing and curriculum that we've forgotten the number one component of the equation, and that's the student. And so we have to look at meeting the students' basic needs before they can move on to the curriculum and the testing.
How taxing is it for you personally? Because essentially, you have to be a parent on so many levels to kids 24/7, and their success has to just impact you on so many different levels. How taxing is it?
You know, it's emotionally draining, but on the other hand, it's also very rewarding. I can't think of any other job that has such an immediate reward. I mean, I get a hug from 120 kids every day, you know, and to be, you know, called Ms. V or Mom or whatever, that's just so rewarding and inspirational when you see your kids moving forward with their lives and overcoming great obstacles.
In the film, we see some success stories, but obviously it's real life, and sometimes they're not all success stories. What happens when they're not success stories? What happens to these kids?
Well, the immediate answer is that some of them might drop out for a little while. Some might go to the adult program. Some might go to a GED program. What my foundational belief is that we plant seeds. And just like in a garden, I don't sit and automatically get to see my plants and my flowers grow right in front of me. They might grow 6 months later, they might grow a couple months later, but I planted the seeds and eventually they'll pay off to some type of produce.
Are there ever moments that you think, this is too much? I can't help this kid. This is too much. This is not what I signed up for.
Never, not on an individual student level. However, systemically, our program is one out, one in, and I always have a long waiting list to come in, and that can be overwhelming just to think of the societal needs. We need more programs like BlackRock because, like I said, it's one out, one in on a constant level.
So this is for the both of you. When you break down these kids, so much of this, we see kids who have emotional issues. We have kids who their parents weren't around, daddy didn't love them. There are kids who have just been hit by circumstances of early pregnancy, sexual abuse. I mean, you see everything with these situations. If you were to essentially break down the ratios, what do you think is the major cause for why a kid can essentially go bad?
That's a very good question. I would say it goes back to what Keith wrote about in the foreword to the book, not being seen, not being recognized, not feeling like they matter. And so I equate it to like the body. If you have a headache and you don't take care of that headache, the headache's going to get worse and worse and worse until eventually you do something about it. That's the same thing with these kids. If you don't see them, then they're going to keep getting bigger and bigger and badder until you see them, until you hear them.
Miss V said something to me about one of the kids in our film who, in our dealings with him, you would say, like, I just want to strangle him. He's being so enraging. And she would say, just remember, the kids who need the most love are often the ones who show it in the least lovable ways. And when you think about that, you think not like, oh, he's being irritating or he's being defiant, but you can take a moment and say, wow, for a kid to behave like that, what did he go through to get there? Which means I have to be a little bit more compassionate about that.
When how loudly he is calling out to be loved.
Yeah.
How does this change you? She lives this every single day. How does this change you as a filmmaker when you have to live this?
Well, you know, it's interesting because you referred to us being a fly on the wall, and for years in my career, I aspired to be a fly on the wall. How do I observe something without being noticed? But that actually didn't happen on this film. You were not able to be in Principal Viland's office without being emotionally moved by what was happening in front of the lens. And there were days where we said, wow, you know, look at these teachers and what they do for these kids, and why aren't we doing something? And it would kind of get us to reframe our sense of a goal. Like, wait a minute, no, what we have the ability to do is we're storytellers, and we have to take the way that we are emotionally moved by these people's lives, and we have to convince an audience to feel the same thing. We have to take the story to more people than walk through the doors of Black Rock High School, so that they can learn not just about these kids, but about the kids all across the country who are in the same circumstances.
And they've been very committed to that. They're working to develop educational modules and staff development programs from the movie, and working with continuation schools and traditional high schools on how to work with the bad kids. I mean, every teacher is going to have that type of student in their classroom, and every teacher can make a difference with that child. And Lou and Keith have been committed to bringing that word out to the schools.
My final question. I always ask, not always, but I ask a lot of celebrities, especially when they're going through some really cool moments. I'll say, what's been the coolest moment of this year? For you, Miss V, what's been the one success story that stays with you?
Well, it has something to do with one of the characters at the end.
You're going to say the same thing that I'm going to say.
I want to actually hear from both of you. That's a great
okay, why don't you go ahead first then, because I want to know if I can.
Don't steal his answer, though.
No, I won't steal his answer. I'm different. I won't.
Just a few weeks ago at an advanced screening in LA, one of the kids in the film, Joey, who has the roughest time, got to stand up in front of an audience who had just watched him on screen. And instead of feeling ashamed about his life, he had the opportunity to feel how much an audience was supportive of what he's been through, and how much they applauded. You know, Joey doesn't have his high school diploma yet, but how much they applauded the fact that he still wants it, and that he isn't giving up, and that he hasn't succumbed to hopelessness.
Which leads to my point, is that a week ago, Joey got in touch with me, and we have an appointment on January 4th to get him enrolled at the adult program. And
awesome.
It is awesome. You know, to have one of your kids who's touched you so much, realize that they have the inner strength to move forward, nothing better.
Good for you guys. Great job on both ends. Great film, and what you're doing is heroic, so congratulations. All right, guys, so make sure to check out The Bad Kids. Opens up in LA Friday, December 16th, then runs to New York December 23rd, and then it'll be hitting theaters after that. An inspirational and moving film. Check it out.